What we want to do tonight is we're going to give you an update of where you are. I see a lot of familiar faces, but some new faces. So we're going to go through this project and where we are. We've done a lot of public input meetings. We've had a lot of private input. We've had a ton of input on this project, and every piece of that has been recorded, documented, and we've made changes to the project based on that input. So when we say this is a public-driven project, it really has been. We've made a lot of changes. Now, there's always public input that we couldn't do because it just doesn't work. But, I mean, for the most part, we've taken that input and we've incorporated it into the project. So we're going to go through this tonight. We're going to spend about maybe, I'm hoping 30 minutes, it might be 45, going through this presentation. And then at the end, we will do some questions and answers and just kind of a free flow of information. This is not necessarily a public input meeting, but your questions and your comments are input. So we'll take them, we'll write them down, and of course we'll look at those things and see if there's any more changes we continue to make. We've got a couple other people, and we'll introduce them when they're going to come up and speak. But we do have a couple of the development team here that are going to give parts of the presentation. So with that, I'm just going to go right into it. If we can get everybody coming in. I guess everybody's coming in. All right. So what's our vision? You know, we currently own about 16.5 acres. Oh, well, he just walked in. So Mayor Grant's here, so everybody wave. Mayor's back there. I can't see that far, so if somebody walks in. So who else here? Oh, and our city manager, Loyola Verrier, is here. Stand up, wave. You know, they're asking me to point people out that I can't even see their faces from here. I don't have my glasses on. Is that it? I don't see anybody else. Okay. Everybody else is staff. Not important. No, I'm just teasing. They're all important. Everybody's important. Anyway, so getting back into my presentation, we own about 16.5 acres in this town square block, and we also own another about 5 acres over on High Ridge. And it contains, this 16.5 acres contains a couple historic structures, which is the old high school and the schoolhouse museum, which has already been restored. And it also has City Hall, library, has some three civic buildings, plus the police department, plus fire station number 1. So it's all on this 16.5 acres, and you can see it's spread out pretty well. Most of these buildings are fairly old, and they're getting to the point where they're falling down. So they've got to be replaced. Oops. Oh, you know, I knew I was going to do that. There we go. So what we did is we went out with what we called a P3, which is a public-private partnership. And we went to select a developer to come in and work with the city to develop the new city facilities that are needed, plus private development that helps pay for the city facilities. So that's why it's called a public-private partnership. It's using private development that helps pay for the city infrastructure that needs to be built. And so we selected a company called E2L Real Estate Solutions, and that's Mark Heffron, wave your hand, who's running that program, to work with us on a redevelopment project for this whole 16.5 acres, plus build a new police department building over on High Ridge, plus build a new fire station, number 1. We have 5 fire station buildings. Replace fire station number 1, which is right on the outside, and we'll show you on the map where that is, right downtown. The city, what is the city going to get out of this? We'll get a new city hall library building, a renovated historic high school building built for civic uses, a couple of parking garages. We're going to have almost 2,000 parking spaces, which are needed, and interactive open space. Plus we will get a PD station and a fire station. And then the developer is going to construct a hotel, private residential units, and some office and retail space. So overall, the project is probably about a $250 million redevelopment project in the town square. So it's a big impact project for the city of Boynton Beach. And this has been talked about for at least 20 years, maybe longer. So I see things that go back at least 20 years talking about this, but we're actually moving forward now on the project. And so what is our vision? Our vision is to create a town square that brings all the communities into a center to live, work, and play. It's really to bring everybody in Boynton Beach to one place, so we have a city family room where we can all get together, we can have events, we can get to know each other, we can work, we can develop jobs, we can give some economic development, we can get kids in that are being educated well, that are become the future of the city. So it's really to bring everybody together in one place where we can really celebrate the heritage of our city. So the development team, I'm not going to go through all these. We have about 20 members. These are some of them, and they're all well-known firms in their area of expertise. So there's a lot of moving parts on this project, but those are all the development team members. Project highlights. We executed a contract June 20th for what we call Phase 1, which is doing preliminary design work, which is what we're showing you tonight, developing a guaranteed maximum price, and to start work on the high school. The high school, if you walked up here, you parked, you see them working on the high school. They are working on the high school, and we're going to show you where we are, some progress a little bit later. We had some partnership meetings. What does that mean? That means all the private developers and the private contractors and the engineers and all that got together with all the city staff, and we developed our project vision and all of the challenges and the solutions for those challenges in a team meeting. And we're going to track that throughout the project. It's a way to make sure 60 or 70 people know how to work together throughout the project, because that's about how many people that are on the project team, and that's a very big team. You've got to know how to work together to have a successful project. So we've done some partnership meetings, and we established the goals, and we set a charter for the project, and that's available, and we have that actually. I think it's online, but I think it is. I think it's online. So some of the project highlights: the Phase 1 design and pricing services. That was in Phase 1 for, again, all of the city buildings. With input from all the team members, we decided at one time, if the original project, actually, if you guys were here at the very beginning, we were looking at adding a city hall to this north end of the library or to the south end of the library. And when we started going through it, it just didn't make sense to do it. It just didn't work. That we couldn't get the project built. It wasn't the right size. It was disrupting the library. And then we started looking at this library, this part of the library structure, and it really is not a 21st century library. It was designed, it's not that old, but it's old enough where it's starting to have some issues and things. So it was decided, let's just build one fabulous 21st century building that we can integrate all of these services into a building where the public can truly enjoy using the building, because the public's paying for it. So when it comes to city operations, it's not just a 9-to-5 building 5 days a week. It's a building that's going to be open all the time for the public to use for a lot of different events. So we decided to do that, and then in August we decided to add what we call a district energy plant to provide all of the cooling energy for the entire project. Normally when you build a project like this with 10 or 12 buildings, each one has all of their own little air conditioning condensers and their coolers and all that all around, scattered all over a campus. It's pretty inefficient. We decided to go with a very efficient, what we call the district energy system, which is chilled water. So we're going to have one plant that makes really cold water, ships it to all the buildings, they use that to cool the building, and then it comes back to the plant to be cooled. It's extremely efficient, and it's very green, so that's why we chose to do it. So we added that to the project. So the open space plan developed have to be refined, so we're developing the open space requirements. Again, it's not fully designed. We've developed enough concepts to price it out. Kids Kingdom Playground, it's going to be refurbished and really brought up to the 21st century safety standards that are required. So that's part of the project. We're going to be working on it. And we do have the public outreach and building wealth programs, which we'll talk about a little bit later, to really make sure all of the local businesses can be involved in this project. For now, and then building wealth is what we do with this project in the future to make sure everybody can get something out of this as a citizen of Boynton Beach. So project highlights, public arts, again, continuing public arts requirement. We're developing some innovative solutions and creative artwork to go into the project, and relocating all the public art that's already in the town square into great spaces for people to enjoy. We filed permits in the South Florida Water Management District. We've already filed those permits for the project, so we're working through the permitting right now. And we're working on some agreements to either lease or sell land. We don't know which it's going to be yet, so I know that's going to be a question later on. We do not know. But the private property needs to be on land that they either lease from the city or they own, because we don't want, it's not public development, it is private development. So proposed project schedule. Where are we? Today we're meeting. It's a forum. It's just to tell you where we are on the project and what we're doing. On November 7th, we're having a public workshop with the City Commission, and we're going to review the project site plan, probably some floor plans. We're going to be reviewing some of the pricing for the project and what different things cost, and some high-level information on the financial package. I don't know the exact how much detail we'll be providing. We're going to be providing everything we have at that date. So we'll provide everything that we have at that point. December 5th, we're looking at, that's a tentative date to bring a contract back to the Commission to say, yes, go forward with Phase 2 on the project, which is actually going to build all these buildings and get the private development going. January 15th, execute the contracts. March 1st, we want to start construction on our new police station and our new fire station. April 1st, we need to move the library. So by April 1st, we want the library moved. We don't have a location yet. We're working on that. We have several we're looking at. We will have a location that'll work. We don't have it yet, but we had to move that in April. And then May 1st, we're going to start demoing everything south of Ocean Avenue. We'll start being demoed and getting ready for construction. So that's pretty quick. It's only about 6 months from now. So June 1st, you'll start seeing a garage coming up, a new City Hall building coming up, and you'll start seeing that infrastructure. And within a few months after that, you'll start seeing some of the private development come up. 2 to 3 months, maybe 4 months after that, you'll start seeing that come up out of the ground. So we're going to build the entire south part of the project. Starting there, August 1st, next year, high school will be ready to start moving in furniture and fixtures and all that to start programming. And September 1st, that's our target date right now, and that could change, but our target date to start all of our programs that are going to be moved to the old high school in the high school. So that's our target date. Could slip a little bit. It could go a little bit faster. We'll see how the contractor does. We think they could go a little bit faster, but maybe not too much. That's pretty aggressive. May 1st, 2019, we'll have PD and a fire station done, and they can move into. And then when they move into that, City Hall will be done. We can move into City Hall, and we're going to demo that north side, and that development can start on the north side of the project where City Hall is right now. So that's kind of the project. So this is the let's see if I can find my pointer here. There it is. So this is the site right here. This is 16.5 acres, and this is what it looks like now. So just to get you an idea of where we are, that's where we're sitting right here. We're sitting right there right now. So this is City Hall, police station's right here, fire station's right there, City Hall's right here. This is the high school, Children's Schoolhouse Museum. This is the old Civic Center building. This is the art building, and this is the Matson building, which there's a community theater in right now. And of course, this is the library on this whole piece. So what are we going to build? So this is the fun part. Did you want to do this or want me to do this? Okay, we're going to let Wayne. Wayne is from our architect, Baker Barrios, and I never can say his last name.
Dunkelberger.
Dunkelberger. Wayne Dober is our architect, and he does a fabulous job going through this, so I'll let him go through it.
Actually, Colin, can you start with the streets, and then I'll go into the plan? Let's tag team this.
We'll tag team. All right, I like tag team. So
we were well last time.
We'll just talk a little bit slower, though. I'm talking too fast, aren't I?
We'll talk at the same time.
Yeah. She's having a tough time.
That's going to be hard.
All right, so just to get you familiar, this is Boynton Beach Boulevard. This is Seacrest. So this is where City Hall sits right now. So what we're looking at, I'm just going to go through the building and I'll let him talk about the overall site plan. So what we're proposing is this is going to be a hotel, and we have several brands we're looking at, but this is going to be a hotel. This is what we call the north parking garage. What you see in here is a space for civic use. We have been, and we'll talk about this a little bit later, but we've been talking to the YMCA. They're very interested in going into the first floor of this parking garage for a downtown YMCA. There isn't anything around here. It would be a fabulous part of this project. This is a bottom floor, which is office, space, educational space. Anyways, it's commercial type space on the bottom floor, and then it's apartment units. This is another apartment building. So this is first right now. And then you go down Ocean Avenue, you have another apartment complex. This is restaurant retail space along Ocean. And then you come to the Schoolhouse Museum, which has already been restored, and that's staying like it is. This is where the new Children's Kids Kingdom will go, refurbished, brought up to standards with some new features, and we're looking at a couple of really cool features to put in there. This is the high school right here that we're refurbishing and turning into this new civic building. This is that district energy plant that we're talking about. We're going to kind of tuck it in. You really won't know it's there. You won't even know it's a plant. But we're tucking it right there. So you come down Ocean, and then right across Ocean, this is our big, what we call our town square. That's our big park. This is what we call a family active park. So it's for the families, for activities, for going in and reading and sitting around and relaxing. And this is more of an open space park for thing, and I'll let Wayne talk a little bit more about that. And then you come down, we have a new City Hall library building, and Wayne will go through that. And then we have residential units wrap this block with a parking garage in the middle of that block. And then over here, this is private property, and the owner of this has decided to come in on the project too. He's going to be redeveloping his project too. It's not something the city's doing. It's by the private property. But what it does is it anchors our project development. So we really are glad they came in. I know that's where the post office is right now, and everybody asks where that goes. You'll have to talk to the guy that owns the building where the post office is going to go, because we don't own it. But I'm sure he has some answers on that. And this is where Fire Station 1 goes, which is off-site. Again, this is first and first. So this is the new fire station number 1. So we're keeping the fire station right downtown, but just off campus. So with that, I'll give you the point.
Thank you. And once again, Colin covered the streets, and I did want him to cover the names and the locations. part of the master plan, the important part of the master plan is to create this public realm that everyone can enjoy in the city of Boynton Beach. It's also the front door for the city of Boynton Beach. So as we looked at the master plan, laid the master plan out, the important assets, the things that were here was the high school and the Kids Kingdom and the current museum. So we wanted to make sure that those were focal points and jewels of the layout, and that everyone could walk down here on a night or an evening, enjoy the park, and then also embrace the library and city hall. So they both become part of the experience of coming to a open space that can be programmed. There's an amphitheater, public events, private events can happen here. There can be places for food trucks, and really it's an open access so that once you park, you can find your way to the high school, to the library, to the city hall very easily in this layout with a sense of place and community. And that was the important part of our master plan. You want that?
I need this. Oh. This is what I need. Okay. So with that, we're going to go in and talk a little bit about the project. So this is the existing high school. Everybody knows what that is. That's what it looked like, I don't know, what, 4 months ago?
It still looks that way.
It still looks that way from the front. No, it doesn't quite look that way right now. But I wanted to show you just a couple things, and I'm going to turn it over to our developer who's working on the high school. Is we've had, and I'm not showing you the whole floor plan, but couple of the comments we've had during public meetings is, one is the thought was we didn't have enough elevators in there to go from the first floor to the second floor. So I just really, all I want to do is show this is we've added a couple of elevators to make it real simple access from the first floor to the second floor to really open this up for a lot of activities. And we're also adding some stuff down in this bottom corner so we can put a little restaurant, you know, a little some kind of shop, retail type restaurant in there in that high school. So when we have events, we have a warming kitchen for catering. We've got a big ballroom. So that's really all this is about. And then the second floor, we just want to show you, we're going to have an auditorium that'll seat about 600 people, or for dining around 350 people. There's nothing in between Jupiter and Fort Lauderdale that can do this. So we believe that we have probably the premier place for people to want to come and use, and so we think it's going to activate that building every day of the week. The building also is intended for our recreation programs and for adult programs and for other private programs to come in and lease space and use those programs. So we're trying to create a building that's extremely multi-purpose. Every room can be used for multiple different things. The one thing we don't want to build is a special purpose building, because a special purpose building means it's only used for that purpose. We're trying to build a building that can be used for multiple purposes all the time. The idea is to keep the building active 12 to 14 hours a day, 7 days a week. Because that's what activates the downtown, and people can really enjoy the history and the activities that will be inside that building. So with that, I'm going to turn this over to Jeff Harden, who is our contractor.
Hi, everybody. I'm Jeff. I'm the owner of Straticon Construction. Some of you may know or not know we've been involved in the project way back when REG decided to put a lot of time into preserving the high school. So we partnered up with them. Together, we're partners in the project today, and we are actively cleaning up the high school, I think is the best way to put it. It has been neglected. It needed a lot of help. There was hazardous material, and we started with abatement. So there's lead paint, there's asbestos, there's mold and mildew, holes in the roof, deteriorated wood. As we stand right now, we are, say, 75 to 80% demolished on the inside of the building. The abatement is essentially complete. So in our phase one contract was to come in, stabilize the building, clean the building, prepare it for the new infrastructure, mechanical, electrical, plumbing, to convert the ballroom, add the elevators. And so we have a couple pictures we can share. Many of you have probably not seen the inside of the building. And this picture on the left is the gymnasium, or gymatorium is what I've heard it called, but that had a wood floor that was mostly deteriorated, that's been removed and torn out. You can see the ceiling is in the roof is that's pretty much how it looked when we got it. We haven't started taking that off yet, but the scope of work for us will be to remove all of that timber that's on those steel trusses in the ceiling and the roof of the building. And we are going to reclad that with historically appropriate wood material that looks very similar to the way it looked when it was built, and replace some of the structural elements. Then it'll all be dried in with new insulation, new roof. The whole inside will get plaster repaired, new wood floor, stage will be fixed. And when we're complete, it'll look very similar to the way it was when it was built 75, 80 years ago. So it's going along very well, and we're making a lot of progress. Brian Peralt and James DeMichael are here in the crowd somewhere. That's our project management team, and they're working with several people from your community to work on the school so far. It's actually going very well. This is the lower level of the building, and as you can see, it's pretty wide open at this point. Everything's been out. It's been the walls that were there, the rotten material. You can see the spray painted plywood on the floor. Below that's actually a crawl space that is there, and that flooring needs to be repaired and replaced. And when we're done, those will be wood floors down the hallways, wood floors in the lower area on the left, and it's just going to look amazing. It's going to be quite a facility when we're done.
Ooh. All right. Wayne, this is for you.
Yeah, this is perfect. Thank you. We did have a...
You got to go down.
Thank you. We did have a community meeting with input, and overwhelmingly, during that architectural style meeting, there were a couple things that were said. One of them was a Mediterranean theme, and then the other was to be welcoming and inviting. And so what we did is we went to the drawing board after that community meeting, and we started to look at the Mediterranean style and how that can be used in a 4- and 5-story building on a library in City Hall. And then also we wanted to make it inviting. So we do have the classical step back and tower elements that you find in a Mediterranean building. And we also were able to incorporate glass and open space at the front, so it's welcome and inviting to anybody that comes to the building itself. And then the other part that you looked at in the master plan, where the actual large lawn is we incorporated a patio porch element right here. And so as you walk up, you walk through the porch, and you can sit here and you can look out on the park. And then this element actually faces back to the high school. This front piece over here, this glass piece that's open and inviting, is actually from the road when you drive in. So we think from your input, we were able to create a building that you'll be proud of. In addition to that, Colin did mention some parking garages, and we're working through the styles of that to match. So the campus itself, all of the buildings will be of a similar style, and once again, we're still working through that style. And I'm going to let Mark talk from here.
Let me go back. My name is Mark Heffron, and I like to surround myself with really talented people. So aside from Colin, who's a great PowerPoint expert and a deliverer of the message, I'm humbled just to be here and be part of this. Jeff, who is doing the high school, has been working with this for, gosh, 5, 10, 15 years if you throw Rick's time in there. So I know how important that element is to the overall project, and we have focused around that. Of course, Wayne, as I always say, brings a smiling face and makes it look easy, because we went through a lot of meetings on this City Hall and the library combination. 8 weeks ago, that design didn't even exist. That's a 105,000 square foot building that we won't get into the floor plans tonight, but it is multifunctional 24/7. And when I say that, it's intended for events, and we'll share a little bit about that. But one of the challenges is going to be when you bring the density into downtown and make this a town square and you activate it, where are you going to park? And so this garage is proposed to be just opposite the south corner of City Hall. You'll be able to park here, go in and pay a bill, attend a chambers meeting, a forum like this. There'll be a canopy that actually comes out, if I can find the little clicker here, from this tower. There'll be an elevator in here that you'll be able to come across the street. The City Hall Library will be sitting right here, so never have to go out in the elements when you come to see anybody at City Hall or come to the library. The next concept, and I'm going to ask John Markey to maybe come up and speak a little bit to this, Wrapping around this garage is a residential unit that John Markey's been doing different components around the city. I've let him talk to the scale and the type. This is just a concept, so let me share John here to talk about what the residential will do.
Good evening. Thank you all for coming. I think a lot of you know me. I've been in Boynton Beach since 1996 doing projects, doing large projects since about 2000. We're currently the developers of Cortina and Renaissance Commons. Most of you know Renaissance Commons. We've been there for quite a few years. And we're developing the residential portion of this project. What you see here is looking at the southwest corner of Seacrest and 2nd, the buildings that wrap the parking garage. How do I go back to? Can we go to the site plan, the colored site plan? And do we have a pointer? I didn't come armed. Oh, I'm technically challenged. You got to forgive me. So really, we're looking at this corner. The idea is that we've got this one-story residential neighborhood to the south, and it needs to be buffered from a parking garage. So we're saying we're going to limit this to 3 stories. These other side wings here step up to 5 or 6 stories. Part of the problem we have here is the residential and private sector actually pays for the rest of the project. So we're trying to get to a point where we have enough tax base value to cover that bill. So we're trying to hit not only a density that we think is appropriate for an urban area, but also helps us with the financing of the project. So what we saw earlier is a concept when we got together with our architectural meeting. A term that was thrown around a lot was new Mediterranean and coastal look. So this is a concept sketch we think is appropriate to that. Does the building end up looking like this? Does it end up being 6 stories? I don't know that it does. And I don't know that that's appropriate to be 6 stories. I think that we've got some more work to do on the south section, and we've got some more work to do on the north section of the residential. But so far, that's where we are at this point in time, and open to any comments.
Later.
So I want to jump back, if I could, just for a second, to the garage, because there is a concept here. We've shared this with the city, an idea of putting a component where this would go out into the park, whether you're doing the movies in the park, if you're wanting to do a concert. You could actually advertise on this billboard. You could announce events. So we have given the city an option to price in an LED board. In the bottom of this is intended to be restrooms, so that when there is an event in the park, there'll be adequate restrooms to handle large crowds. Not that you couldn't come in the new City Hall or library or go to high school, but this would sit directly across from the park as it's currently planned. This is a floor plan that John had just pointed out, a little more detail. So then, how do you activate a city park? You know, what do you want to do in that space? And we've had several people on our team. Nancy Stewart, who I don't see her in the audience here tonight, but she's been working with us. She does a lot of the events down in Delray and some of the other cities. And what we envision happening is the entire park will, first of all, be secured. Unfortunately, the world we live in today, you can't just bring 5,000 people to an event and say, hey, enjoy yourself. So we have been working with the city, the chief of police, his staff, about how to secure this but still make it architecturally pleasing. And I think we've come up with a great plan that will bar any traffic during an event to come inside of this space by having bollards and other movable and non-movable matter that will keep trucks, cars, or et cetera. And then, as you can see within that boundary limit, we believe you could probably put up to about 5,000 people, given whatever type of event that may be. Inside of that, of course, is the school. You got the Children's Museum. These spaces out around City Hall are also included as possible event space. I think the intent or the possibility is for the city to actually lease that. So if a corporation said, hey, I want to come in and rent the front of City Hall for 200 or 300 people to watch a concert, that'll be a private element that the city could actually use that on a Saturday or Sunday so that your building actually is generating revenue, you know, for the city. Inside of the next space, you know, we talked about how do you activate the historical high school. Our intent or our hope is that that space, which we just mentioned, could hold up to 600, 700 people for an event. That could be an indoor concert, could be a wedding, a retirement party. We've all seen these events, and as I was led to believe, there's no space like that inside of, would you say, Jupiter to Fort Lauderdale. So we're hoping to see a lot of activity in that regards. The hotel, it's intended to be more of a functioning hotel without all the corporate space, because the ideal thing is they come in, use the hotel, but they use the high school for the corporate function. And so that's the way it's being laid out. And then, of course, I mentioned the security measures that we've already built into the project. This was the example of the hotel as we had planned it initially. We haven't changed anything. We do need to bring that in line, I think, Wayne, with how that reflects, because this was the original City Hall as we had planned it. But this is Seacrest. Boynton would be this way. We plan on activating the entire bottom floor with restaurants, whether Starbucks is in there. It could be a numerous opportunities for events. Intending right now 4 to 5 stories. And again, we're going to blend this in and make sure architecturally that it works with the overall scheme of the project. 150 maximum rooms, we think, probably could be as low as 120. Again, that's going to depend on the density and space needs that we determine the events are looking for. Planned lease space. You know, I've heard from many people. The city shares with me some of your emails, and I will tell you they're great comments. So how do you lease space and bring in business? Currently, of course, the high school is one we see very high activity in, particularly the second floor. We mentioned the City Hall, as Wayne pointed out. This is a 2-story atrium type space. I don't know if we have any of the pictures of it. We'll be glad to discuss that further. This is event space, or what we call touchdown space. If any of you are familiar with some of the facilities, I think in Fort Lauderdale, it's called, is it Wave? I know we call it Canvas up in Orlando. We built a space about 20,000 square feet just for people that want to come in, sit down with their computer and work, rent it by the hour, rent it by the day. It filled up so fast they're on their 3rd one now. So we're trying to activate. Part of this is whether you're a student, a small business startup, et cetera, you could come in here and use this space. Likewise, as John was pointing out in the residential, we hope to see some restaurants, retail that would activate along Ocean Avenue. This space, again, bottom floor of the residential, retail, office, et cetera. We're going to start marketing that as this project goes forward into the approval stage. The city advised us they wanted to try to activate Boynton, so hence, you know, we're trying to put something in the garage that brings activity along Boynton and really draws people in, you know, bring you across Boynton and be part of that. And I just went through the hotel. I looked in the audience, I saw Michael Weiner. He does own this property right here and has been a great partner of ours to help us find, okay, how do we bring what's going to be this new town square when most people are coming off of 95 into town? Can we put a complementary structure and type of space in there that aligns with the hotel? So we've had some great discussions. He does have a long-term lease or a lease with the federal government, which you don't just go break overnight. But we're talking about some ideas of how to move that and make that part of this project. It'll be a later discussion. And then naming rights. One of the things the city challenged us with, and I think it was to all the developers, was how do you pay for all this? Well, one of the ideas was one of the competitors, and I thank the city for introducing me, was a company called Atwater, and we've been working with 4 of their consultants now to come in and look at what type of financing they can bring in. So they're coming back to us with opportunities to do naming rights on the high school, part of the park, this space at the library, the Kids Kingdom playground area, and anything around the amphitheater, et cetera. So we've identified 4 of them up here, but we think there's many more, and these can be small donations. They could be big underwriters. I mean, there's this company we're working with has done $2 billion in naming rights since they started, and they're doing work now at Miami-Dade. They're doing work in Pompano Beach. They're a pretty well-known entity. This is the northern garage. This would be looking along Boynton Beach Boulevard. So if you could envision the hotel sitting here, we're trying to make this not look like a garage. So when you're coming down Boynton Beach Boulevard, you won't see people standing out on the patios, but the intent is we would blend in the architecture so that when you go from the hotel to the parking garage to the residential units, you're not going to know this is a garage other than there's going to be a turning lane in so that you can get in there and park, and obviously we're going to have to do some kind of valet right at the hotel. This is the rear of that same building. As Colin pointed out, you'd never know that that was a central energy plant that was producing chilled water for 13 buildings and maybe more, hopefully. It's really going to become a revenue source for the city long term, and as he mentioned, this is about the most sustainable system that you can install for any kind of business or any kind of municipality building. So some things that we were contemplating, the YMCA, I think, approached Lori about a month and a half ago and said, hey, we heard about Town Square, the word's out on the street. What's the chance that we can come in and be part of that? So they've had, I think, 2 meetings now. We'll be doing some follow-up meetings. There's no guarantees, but the fact that the interest is there is really, really exciting. One of the things that does allow us to do is possibly let them work with us on the Teen Tech Center. Right now, as you know, the teens are spending a lot of time here in the library. I don't know if any of you, most of you have probably been through those teen years. They're hard to keep focused and keep, entertained on the right stuff. So we think this is an opportunity to bring in a company. We've been kicking around people like Apple, Samsung, bring in a well-known company that can help us with technology and really create something special for the teens. And if it does go, it could go in several places. Right now we're talking to them about going in the bottom floor of the parking garage. And where's the Chief of Police and Matt? I don't know if Matt's here tonight, but I'll turn this back over to Colin because this is their building.
All right, and I want to answer, Commissioner Casella walked in. So he's here. I wanted to introduce him as he came in. So anyways, we want to get back to, remember we said police department needs to move off campus, and we looked at several locations, settled on the High Ridge site, but this is a rendering of what we're going to have as a new police station. It's about a 54,000 square foot building. The problem we have right now is the police station we have right now is extremely undersized for our size as a department. So we're going to try to build them a modern, technologically advanced police station that'll help them drastically improve their ability to serve the public in a building that's sized correctly for them. That's just a rendering of it. We're not going to show you fuller plans, but this is just a rendering. This would be the front of the building. The Fire Station 5 is right here. And I'm going to show you another picture real quick that kind of shows that. So this would be looking at PD from Fire Station 5. So again, we're trying to blend the architecture in with how the fire station looks, and they're both complementary buildings that will complement each other and the public safety for the city of Boynton Beach. Fire Station number 1, this is a rendering of what it looks like. That may change a little bit, but this is on that corner of 1st and 1st. It's a new Fire Station 1. It's a 3-bay station, so it's sized for growth in the downtown area and sized properly for full-time personnel needed in the station. And with that, the last program we want to talk a little bit about is building wealth. Did you want to do that? Or okay, and we're going to let Mark cover that.
So I see David in the back of the room. We've had multiple meetings with the city about how do we keep the wealth and create more wealth inside of the city. And so we've been actively meeting with contractors, potential employees, vendors that want to be part of this project. This is a large project. As Colin said, it could be upwards of $250 million, and we think this is the catalyst for the future, too. It isn't going to stop with Town Square. Town Square becomes that catalyst to grow Boynton Beach and to create wealth here. So we've had a couple public forums. We have a white paper. I just met with Merchant Strategy. I see Laura's in the back of the room. Sophie, I don't know. Yes, she is here, Sophia. She has been actively engaging the community. We have a list of, I would guess, 300 or 400 contractors and vendors now. We've already hired several of those thanks to Jeff Harden and Stratacon. He's got a large contingent of vendors putting up things like the fence. All the electrical work is a local contractor. I just met with the president today by the name of Can-Am, I believe. Great company. You'd never know they're sitting right here in your hometown doing about $20 million a year. I told them if there's a way to figure out how to do the rest of this electrical on this project, we're going to certainly work towards making that a possibility. And then we have uploaded a site for anybody else that is interested to make sure as we're going forward that we capture the right talent, the right people to, again, train people. We're actually talking now with the community college about putting some training programs for mechanical, electrical, plumbing. These are high-paying jobs. When I talked to Peter, the president of Can-Am, he said his average salary or hourly wage is $25 an hour now for an electrician. Now, you got to have the qualifications, so how do you get people trained? We're reaching again out to the community and saying, if you want to learn, this is a 5, 6, 7-year project, get your certification. You know, it's a 6-month to 18-month process, but you have a career for life in a great industry that keeps you right here at home. First of all, a lot of these people travel. As I was told, there's one thing worse than being on I-4 in Orlando, and that's being on I-95 here in South Florida. But we're well along the way. We're starting now to report those results as the high school's being productive and spending some of the city's money, actually. Lastly, I'm going to turn this over now to Debbie and Lucy, who are handling the art program, because as the developer, we're required to contribute funds back to the art.
Thank you, Mark.
Thanks, Mark. I'm Debbie Coles-DeBay, Public Art Manager for the City of Boynton Beach.
And I'm Lucy Keshavars, artist and president of Art and Culture Group, and I'm on the AL2 team.
So we're tag teaming also.
And we only have 10 minutes, so we're
going to talk fast. Anyway, what you see up here is a very, very high-level plan, and these are possible locations, potential artful experiences, and basically it's based on a creative narrative that came out of the several of workshops that have happened and your community engagement participation. So I'm going to have Lucy go over the specific outcome and the narrative that we pulled out of the August 24th workshop, so she can give us that report. Lucy?
The facilitated engagement process used 5 senses plus movement as a way to find out how the workshop participants wanted future town square experience to feel. A summary of the priorities are coastal colors, water, nature, shade, tree canopy, pleasant smells in the air, reminders of the community's history, and areas that are reflective and calming, as well as vibrant and interactive places. There was also a strong desire to create a town square, a place that encourages multi-generational and multicultural happenings, both planned and unplanned. The idea that town square could represent the whole community while also promoting movement and exploration of other places in Boynton was also expressed.
So I think you want to go into a little bit more of the physicality of it as well, out of the workshop.
Well, we were going to talk about the purpose of the master plan.
Okay, the purpose of the master plan. You can see we rehearsed this today. The purpose of the master plan here, again, is very high level, and this is phase 1 conceptual. But the idea and the purpose of art is to draw people into the center of the town square plan. So whether you're traveling, from I-95 and Boynton Beach Boulevard, which is right along here, I guess I could use the pointer. Which one is it in the middle? Bottom, thank you. So this is Boynton Beach Boulevard, and this is Seacrest. So whether you're traveling up Seacrest or on Boynton Beach Boulevard, there's this whole area that we want to draw people into, and this is the town square plan public and private partnership that we have going on here. So the purpose of it is to do just that, and also to engage a lot of artful experiences that we lifted out of the workshop.
So the physicality of the public art for all stakeholders, as Debbie was saying, developed through a private-public partnership, there is a unique opportunity for the public art to create impressive experiences for all stakeholders and the community in a holistic fashion. The physicality of the public art should be such that it promotes the residential, public, and commercial entities and encourages flow from Boynton Beach Boulevard into Town Square and beyond. Having artwork that relates in some way as it moves through Town Square can allow this flowing effect to happen and as desired. The public art can also assist to define purpose of space and wayfinding. In order to accomplish the desired level of iconic public art for Town Square, Boynton Beach, we start with an analysis of possible locations and concepts to meet these goals. This is a very broad exercise at a high level and promotes points of discussion among the design team. At this stage, it is also broad in terms of area and in order to capture all possibilities before getting down to the details. So as you can see, it looks like we have public art everywhere, which would be great, but we do have budgets. But this is just a large canvas, and we're talking about all the possibilities based on what we have learned at the workshop and the programming for Town Square. Basically, we want the public art to emphasize the programming and the community needs and sense of space that has been directed.
Right, and then one of the things that will happen next in phase 2 is that now that we have these great ideas and these locations that we have potential opportunities for public art to be installed, what we'll do is we'll have to look at the more detail, budgets, timelines, type of artist engagement. So whether do we invite an artist to participate or do we do a call to artists, which is a longer process. Since this is a very fast project, we may do some of the other that we said in the first place. So what I'd like to do next is to talk about some of these opportunities. And if you look here, again, we spoke about how do we really direct people into this area down in the Civic Cultural District. And if you look at 1A, 1B, 1C, those are potential areas, and I think they were also highlighted as naming opportunities. But that's a great way to drive people into the area, and these can connect, 1A, B, and C, those locations can really connect the artful experience from this area all the way into the heart of the project. And one of the things the team, when we talked about these big ideas of what we really wanted to have happen, we really wanted something that's very iconic. So very impressive, iconic, almost like the Chicago Bean. We know we can't afford that project, but the idea, as you can see, it's a very, very big project. So that's one of the locations to have something that's very iconic. One of the things we want to keep in mind, though, is that we do want to utilize some of the the art projects that the Arts Commission has identified in their vision plan, which is kinetic, glass, and eco art. And so another location, Lucy?
So the other location, there's several locations, but location 2 speaks to the old high school and the kapok tree, which is so important to the community. And so we could see this area where it's rental space or lease space, space for photo shoots, for weddings, for different ceremonies. So it would also, we'd like to see it speak to the history. You have the old historic library there. And so you could have some quiet spaces there as well. So that's what we have in mind for location 2.
And then the next location we're looking at is the library and city hall project. You see these two number 3s. Again, to incorporate into the structure somewhere, you know, the idea of how do we brand our city and our city hall and our library, and how do we really get the impact of the whole entire city represented in this city hall library complex, because it is a very communal space. So that's, and one of the things that we thought about is an idea that came out of it is the wonderful words that came out of the workshop, and then how can we incorporate those words into some kind of a public art project. So the next one, Lucy?
On location 4, which is with the City Hall and Library, which is just it's such a great facility that you have both there. And so the artwork here could be interactive, because that's one of the things we kept hearing at these workshops is interactive artwork. And how it's interactive, we still have to figure out, but it could be light, it could be music, it could be different kinds of sounds, it could happen differently, whether it's nighttime or daytime. It could speak to education, it could speak to civic duty, as it's right there in front of City Hall and Library.
And then the other space is, again, we're identifying the art panels digital screen that was talked about before with Mark. That's a great opportunity maybe to connect us with the global community as we do with the arts, and look at shows or exhibits that are global, and then as well as maybe doing programming that the city has and showcase it there, as well as some of the other event-driven things that we talked about. And then lastly, Lucy, we'll talk about the private. Commercial?
The private and commercial area, which surrounds and really is the face of Town Square. That's what you first see when you come down Boynton Beach Boulevard. And so there's great opportunity, again, because this is such a large project and it is public-private partnership. There's so many great things that can be done in a holistic fashion. At the same time, you also have the opportunity to soften maybe some hard spaces. The art could be functional so that it's shade, it's places for seating. It could, without being signage, which is very important, but art can be wayfinding. It can help people know where they're going by an iconic piece of art on a certain building, on the garage itself. There's all kinds of things that can be done. And so the private and commercial side is very exciting as well.
And then I just want to point out on here we do have these stars, which represent the Avenue of the Arts sites, and these are just suggested placements as we talk about driving, you know, wayfinding, as you just spoke about. These are other ways that you can do that and be part of our Avenue of the Arts, which then continues up Ocean Avenue to Federal Highway. And there, as Colin mentioned, there's some other public art that exist in this area, so we would have to figure out where to relocate them where they make sense to the overall plan. And that's it. Thank you.
All right, so we're going to move into a little, yeah. What we're going to do is we're going to open it up for input, for questions. We've got the team here to try to answer questions. We've got about 20 minutes, 25 minutes. But what we're going to do is we're going to have the microphones in the audience. Just raise your hand, we'll get you a microphone, ask your question, and then we're going to try to answer the question, because I've got most of the team members here that are here to answer the questions. But do me a favor, there's a lot of people here, so keep your questions as short as you can, but ask what you need. Yeah, start right there.
Will the windows in City Hall open?
That's a great question. Mark?
If Lori tells us she wants them to.
Some will, some won't.
Should we show them your office, Lori? I think her window will open, but I can't speak for all of them.
They're afraid I'll jump.
Let me be more serious about it. We are designing City Hall Library to be Category 4 design, which in the world of Irma means that you can take a impact and winds up to, I think, 185 mile an hour before you have to worry about damage to the facility. I think anybody knows Lori got a little time out from her office on that last storm because of the leaking that happened at the building, reinforcing the comment that Colin made. The buildings are well past their life cycle, so we fully intend that the windows in most cases will be sealed from any kind of environmental damage that would happen during a storm. And when you do have operable windows, that makes it kind of challenging.
So the answer really is most of them will not be, because you really can't do it in modern building design and the current building code. Commercial buildings, it's very tough to have opening windows. It's just very tough with the building codes as they're written. Great question, though.
I do have two questions. I really was intrigued by the idea of the teen center. I don't understand why it wouldn't be put into the library or into the high school.
That's a great question, and I think we probably didn't say this right. When we've had several iterations. There was an iteration where we were saying, you know, what if we gave the teens their own place, where just for teens library space? We did that. We've had some meetings with our teens. Some of them are here, which is great. We had some meetings with them, some workshops, but they didn't like the idea. So we have moved that place back into the library. So the teen space is in the library area, in the City Hall building. Okay. Now, what we were talking about on the North Garage with the YMCA is what we call a teen tech center. That's different than teen space for library. That's a space where you come in and all the technology is available for teens and probably anybody else. But it's really geared for teens to come in and use technology. And that's what we're talking about, getting a sponsor to come in that would sponsor the technology so people are able to come in and use the latest and greatest technology and have that experience. So that's different than the teen center that's in the library. So those are two different things, and we probably didn't do as great of a job explaining that.
But wouldn't it still make sense for that to be in the library?
Well, the problem is you run out of room. I mean, at some point, you can only build a building so big. The technology areas need a lot of room and space, and we just don't have the space. I mean, we've made our buildings as big as we can make them and afford them. That's why that would be. Now, that doesn't mean we don't have technology in the library. The library will be full of technology.
That was my second question.
Yeah,
if you could tell us something exciting about the library.
Exactly. It's the same technology now, although we want to enhance it. You know, we're talking about maybe even have pads. You just come in, you grab a pad, and you're in the library, and you do your work with it and all that. So, yeah, absolutely, the technology will be in the library. This is more for, I'm trying to think of what they really called it. It's more, and they've called it like a genius bar, where you just come in, and it's people who want to write apps, and teens want to work on apps. They want to work on programs. It's more of a business space for teens to gain that kind of knowledge. Differently than what the library is for teens to come in and use the technology to study, and do the other things they need to do with the technology. So those to us, that's kind of two different things. The first one we're doing one in the library. The second one is if we can find somebody to come in and do it, we want to provide space for it. So it's like one is for sure in the library, because that's what the teens said they wanted, and we said absolutely, we're listening, and that's where we're putting it. So we didn't go out. So hopefully that answers the question, and I know y'all probably had some of those questions too. So we wanted to make sure we answered that. Oh, yeah, I'm sorry. Yeah, I guess we're recording that. What was your name? What was your name? I'm sorry.
My name's Kelly.
Kelly. That's good. All right. Right here. I got one right here.
Yeah.
I'm trying to do it in order.
Residential space, would that be rental or condo?
Yeah, I'm going to be honest with you. Right now, the private developers, what's your name?
Sam Green.
Yeah, right now it's planned, the developer has planned mostly rental, but it doesn't rule out condo. You know, one of those things, when you build things, it can be one or the other, but the building has to be one or the other. You can't mix it within a building. Right now, most of it's planned rental, and it's a broad range of rentals, which we really are excited about because, you know, one of the things you have in a lot of the areas that we compete with is the rents are really, really high. So we're trying to, the developer has done a really good job providing a product that has rents that are attainable. For people. So right now we think we're excited about that to be able to provide that. Could they be condos? There's some that could be condos in the future. That's something that the market drives, and one of the things you don't do as government is try to drive the market because we don't do a very good job guessing at it. So, but the market will drive whether or not they're condos or they're apartments.
Rod Silverio, the parking garages, since there are no surface parking, are you going to be charging for parking?
Those are great questions. See, we always get good questions.
Let me go back. I'll just work off of this one. There is surface parking, and that's planned right now to be along the streets. So you can't see it as well, but there'll be parking in this area. There's parking all up and down Ocean Boulevard. This will remain a parking garage or a open parking lot. And then we have put some specialty parking in here specifically for City Hall. If you had to come in and drop a bill off or make a payment, pick up something, it'll be a quick in and out. But if this were all taken, obviously, then you would go into this garage first, as it's intended to be about 50% or so public.
Yeah, so the question on parking is...
Currently, that's not a decision we make, because the city's going to own the garages as we're currently proposing. You know, today, I don't want to speak for the city, I think it would be free, but 10 years from now, who knows? I mean, yeah, nothing's free, right?
Yeah, so... Wait, I want to finish to answer that question. You know, the city doesn't know what the model looks like. Typically in downtown areas, you know, if there's plenty of parking, it doesn't cost anything. When parking becomes a premium, it costs something. But generally in cities, what you do is the first hour or so is free, so you can come down and do your business for an hour. But if you're coming down to go to events and things, in the future, 5, 6, 7 years from now, it could cost. It's all driven on activity. The more active it gets, the more people that are here, the more premium parking becomes. And so that's the answer. I can't tell you when, or I can't tell you how much, but generally when you do it, if you're here for city business, we make sure you can come in, you can park, you can get your business, you can go, and you're not paying for it.
Hello. My name is Gary. I have 3 questions. Can I ask 3 questions? Yeah?
Go ahead.
Okay. The first question is, how will this expansion, you know, help the community as a whole? Like, what will it impact?
I'll tell you, I'd like to take the first one. Were you here when we talked about the Building Wealth program?
Yeah.
Well, that to me is probably the most important one. If you're going to spend $250 million in a community, I mean, you want to keep as much of that economic development cost inside the community. So I don't know where you're working now, but we're looking for contractors, vendors, employees that want to be part of something really exciting, hoping that, you know, they're a resident of Boynton Beach and are going to remain here and spend their money back here, because that starts feeding the bigger cycle of the economy.
Okay, but what you're talking about, looks like it's more centered around the town square and not the homes and other people that have problems with the buildings and all things like that, and how it impacts other people. It sounds more like it's more for tourists, if anything.
No, really, that's why, if you saw the beginning, one of the things we're trying to do is create a town square. Town square means it's where the people that live in the town come to meet with each other and do things. So the whole idea of this is to create a place where everybody in the community can come and find something that they can enjoy with each other. And the whole idea is you bring all those people in, and then they start working with each other, and they work together, and it brings your community close together. So to answer your question about community, it benefits everybody by giving people a place to go that's exciting. At the same time, they get to know each other. You know, a lot of times communities are separated up into individual areas, and they don't ever get together because there's no place to get together. So we want to provide that. That's why we call it Boynton Beach's Family Room. It's where we come together and we meet as family, and it's very inclusive and bringing everybody together to work together, to play together, to live together, and you know, have that community effect. So that's how we're going to impact the community. And answering your question, how do you move outside? One of the things we're very sensitive about in this project is how do we impact the neighborhoods around us? Because that's important. The neighborhoods support this project. So it's very important to support those neighborhoods. And so part of this project will support those neighborhoods. What it'll do is it's providing those jobs. It's providing that activity. There's a lot of other businesses around Town Square that aren't part of this project, and they need people coming to their businesses, because if people come to their business, they spend money. So this will bring the people downtown, and then they'll be going to those businesses. So overall, it's a stimulus to get people in an area and then spread out from there. So that's how you benefit a community, is you build a central part where everybody accesses and is engaged in, and then that spreads out throughout so everybody becomes engaged. There are many, many other projects the city undertakes to improve neighborhoods, to do this or that. This project is to act as a stimulus for downtown, to reestablish a downtown like we used to have in cities. It used to be a downtown, and that's where everybody went and gathered. And we're trying to reestablish that for Boynton Beach. So hopefully that answers your question and get you going. And that's great questions.
Can I ask one more?
One more.
Okay.
Good. Those are good questions.
Yeah, okay. So the place where you're making the parking lot, like the really huge one where the library is supposed to be, where you're minimizing the size of it, so what purpose would it be to take that, the parking lot instead of using the historical high school?
For what?
Like the parking lot or like sharing the town hall?
Oh, yeah, I mean, it's all shared. Both parking garages are shared parking for the hall. We need about 2,000 spaces for this thing, for this project. That's a lot of parking spaces. Okay, you can't put that all on the surface. There's just not enough room. 2,000 parking spaces on the surface is probably about 20 acres. We only have 16 acres, so you have to go up and build parking garages to get the parking in. So the question is where can we put that parking? We've tried to do some surface parking for the daily, for activities and like that, but when you have big events, you're going to have a place to park. And people who live here, live in this area, are going to have a place to park. So we're trying to activate all the things. And your question was really on the library. You know, the library, we're trying to make interactive. You know, libraries are an important part, an essential part of any city. It's where you come and you get education, you get information, you can use technology. There's arts, all kind of arts in a library. So our libraries are very central to a functioning city. And when you have an active library that everybody enjoys going to, your city's going to work much, much better and be much more inclusive with all of us together and working together. So that's really the purpose of the project. So, and I didn't get your name, so just state your name. Did you say your name?
It's Gary again, yeah.
Okay, thank you. All right, good. Great questions. Any questions? Okay, right here.
Hi, Cindy. My question is, how much percentage is going to be retail shopping? So like I live in the community, and I want to spend my dollars in the community because I want my community to stay. Like little grocery stores, not like a Kenny's, but more like, I'm going to use New York because it's what I've seen, or downtown Miami Beach. They have the little shops and they have all the beautiful little meats and stuff like that. Because I'd like to do my shopping where I live and keep those business owners afloat. Are we going to have also some upscale clothing stores? Are we going to have things where people can actually come from the West Boynton to want to come here and do some shopping for some boutique-y and some charming things? So what percentage of all this is going to be for retail?
Okay, that's a great question. I'm going to first start by answering is retail doesn't work without people coming there. So you have to get people coming first. So we're trying to build a place that people will come. And once they come, the retail will follow and retail will build. Now, as far as this project, yes, there's retail being built. There's what we call flex space being built in. It could be used for retail. It could be used for restaurants. It can be used for educational sites. It can be used for office space. So there's multiple things. What generally happens in these projects, and this is generally, not necessarily here, but generally it happens is your lower uses start off first because you don't have enough foot traffic for retail. And as that foot traffic increases because of all the activities we're doing, then the retail start coming in because they're higher rent payers. So when an owner can charge higher rents and get a higher rent payer, that's who moves in. And so you'll start getting the retail. Retail is usually not the first thing in. And if you look at projects around the city where we forced just retail only in, it didn't work very well because it's not the first use that comes in. It's other uses that come in first, and then retail, it moves to retail. So the answer to your question is if people are there, retail will be there. And there is space in this project for retail. You know, what do you think, Mark, square footage-wise?
I think the total, whether you're counting any of the high school, is approximately 60 to 65,000 square feet.
Yeah, so that's a lot of retail. That's 12, 13, 14 medium-sized stores, maybe 20 smaller stores. So it's quite a bit just in this. Now remember also, this is activating Ocean all the way to the marina. And that's going to be active on both sides of the street all the way down. And we really believe that's where you're going to get more restaurants and more retail, and that's where you're going to get those boutique retail stores. As long as there's foot traffic there and people are spending money, they will come. They can't do it if nobody's there spending money. So retail really is the thing that needs people. So, all right, next question was over here, right here. I think you were next. Yeah, I was watching your hand.
Hi, I'm Tony Morrow. First of all, I'd like to commend the commission, the staff, the development team, because this project is phenomenal. And I can see the enormous amount of work and dedication that's gone into it, so I say thank you to that. The other question I have is, I hear that you're going to make this a Category 4 project, But in view of the devastation that has occurred, especially over the past year at communities all over the Caribbean, South Florida, Texas, why wouldn't we be a leader in all communities and make this a Category 5 or above?
That's a great question. I'd love to get the state to kick in the extra $20 million to do it, and we would do it. The problem is its cost. Going from 4 to 5 is a huge cost, and you're absolutely right. You know, it would be nice to do everything to the greatest extent possible. If you look at, the problem we have is east of 95 in a Category 4 or higher really is an evacuation zone, so you shouldn't be in there anyways. We're trying to keep our city hall building intact in those kind of storms because we want to be able to get city services back up and running. Our EOC is not in this area. It's at Fire Station 5 where PD is going to go. So that is a Category 5 building. So that's really the answer. The answer is really funding. It just costs so much more. It's exponentially, the cost goes up.
I mean, I understand that, but if we were to get hit by a storm like that, the cost afterwards makes the 20% or whatever your number is, well, 20 million afterwards turns into hundreds of millions.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. The cost afterwards. Now, the cost after a hurricane, though, is usually paid by the federal government. The cost before is paid by the local government. So that's not a great answer, but that's generally what we look at. We think Category 4 at 170-mile-an-hour winds, the odds of us getting hit by something higher than that in this location because of our geographic is, if it does, it's going to be catastrophic. But the odds of it happening are so big that could it happen? Absolutely. I mean, absolutely it could happen. But the odds of it happening are astronomical. So the question is, do you spend the public dollars to protect against something that's so far out there where we're protecting against the one that's most likely could happen, which really is the 2s and the 3s. That's really where we think that's the odds are you're going to get hit by, and these buildings will do fine. So that's what they're being designed for. And to be honest with you, too, I'll talk some engineering now because I'm an engineer. So when you design for a Category 4, engineers always put a big safety factor in. The odds are it'll go through a Category 5, too, because engineers are way conservative when it comes to designing buildings, which is why they cost so much.
You mentioned that the teens use the library, and I've seen that myself. For a lot of teenagers, the library is their safe space. Where will they be able to go while the new library is being built?
Yeah, that's a good question. So part of this project is we have to relocate the library because it's sitting right where we got to build stuff. We're looking for a space right now. It will include all the library functions we have now. We have a couple of different locations we're considering. We don't have a location yet, so we don't really know what to tell people. We have to make that decision in the next month or so, and we will be making that. We're trying to find a space that meets all the needs of the library, meets the needs of the citizens, provides that kind of space for the teens, for the children, for the adults, for the seniors that come out. We have a lot of seniors that use our library too. So we're trying to find a space that works for all that in a temporary nature, because it is just a temporary time period until we get into a brand new structure, which will really fit what everybody needs. So that's a great question. I wish I could tell you exactly where.
Oh, I'm Brad,
I just can't tell you where because I don't know yet.
Okay.
Can we have a name on that last person?
Oh, yeah.
I'm Brad.
Okay, I'm Lisa. I have a question regarding security. I don't remember who mentioned that there would be blockades to make sure that vehicles can't ram themselves into people. My question is, with the parking garage, what kind of security measures are there going to be to prevent the type of atrocity that happened in Las Vegas?
Yeah, that's a great question. I don't want to talk about the details of security. We don't generally do that. I will tell you that we're putting in security measures to protect against those kind of incidents, to protect against car incidents, to protect against any kind of activity on the site. You know, one of the things, the site will be very visible to people who are watching for those kind of things to start to happen. We will have a lot of cameras. There'll be a lot of other security measures put into the site, so we can assure people when they come down there it's protected. Now, can you protect against everything that can happen in life? I wish I could say yes. The answer is no. We do our very best to think about anything that could happen on a site, and we try to protect against it. Are we going to miss something? I wish I could say no, we would never miss something. The chief's back there. He would probably back me up. We're not bad people. We can't always think about everything a bad person's going to do. But we're trying to protect against all those things. So yes, we have protection against events that happen from an upper story to the lower story. We have events against cars. We have events against other activities that start to happen. So we are taking all of those into account for the design.
Oh, how you guys doing? My name is Wesley, and I have a question, if you don't mind me asking. In the third column on top of the field, what is that for? On top of the field? Yeah, what is that for? And on this map,
those are existing condos that are not part of the project.
not part of the project, but on that map it says for future purpose, potential purpose.
Yeah, if right now they're private condos, they're owned by a private company. If they decide that they would like to sell, you know, there's activity that we could put on that site. That's in the future because right now they're privately owned by 16 different people. So we don't, the city does not own them and we don't control it.
Might ask another one. All right, now for the historic high school, this is gonna be like for it's like a museum, right? Like there's be no students and nothing?
No. It's a civic center. So we'll have activity rooms in it. So things like art classes, dance classes, karate classes, pottery classes. There'll be events in the auditorium, weddings, concerts. There'll be maybe during the day there may be learning sessions. They're going to be used by private companies to come in and do corporate dinners or lunches or meetings and speeches and talks. So it's for everybody to use for programs. Now, programs are different than just coming in and doing whatever you want to do. That's the library is for coming and doing your own personal things. Mm-hmm. The historic library is for programs where you come in and you participate in a program, and to anybody who participates in those programs.
And I understand it's a high school, and the high school is usually big, but it won't have enough space for the city hall to be moved in there, and the library to be left alone by any chance.
No.
So
no way.
No space.
The building is 26,000 square feet.
That's right.
And we need 100,000, is 60,000 square feet for City Hall. So it's just not, it's actually going to be, we need place for programming, and it's a great building to use for programming. We're saving a historic building, recovering it, and making it. So what we're going to provide is we're going to provide a library that's going to work better than what we have now. It's going to have more features, more functionality, better space, more usable space, higher technology. And there's a lot of things we're going to be putting into it because the idea of a library is we need to make it what we're calling a 21st century library. It means it's a library where somebody can come and get their information they need to enjoy the technology that they need to use and to enjoy art that's surrounded them. And if you think of those three things, that's kind of what we do in a library. Everybody does in a library. It's either books, or it's on the computer, or it's studying, or it's getting study partner. We'll have study rooms, we'll have tutoring rooms, we'll have all of those things will be fit, just like we have now, but a lot more efficient use and actually better space. So hopefully that answers your question about the library. Who's next? Right here? Oh, right. Next, okay.
Okay. My name is Mac Bernard, County Commissioner for this area. And I represent a lot of residents who like specifically Forest Park that travels on Seacrest and all the way to, Gateway. So have you thought about traffic and how this is going to impact traffic? And what are you doing in terms of working with the county to discuss traffic? So in that way, how is it going to impact the residents that live on Seacrest?
Yeah, I'm sorry I didn't see you come in. I would have introduced you earlier. I didn't see you come in, but that is a great question. We are hoping, and we're going to work with the county, and hopefully you will help us work with the county. We believe Seacrest needs to be improved from Boynton Beach Boulevard all the way down to Woolbright. We believe it needs to be a full improvement project. It's a county road, and we believe the county needs to come in and help the city with this project by improving that road. It's in a long-term plan. It needs to be moved up. We believe the funding's there for it in the county. So we're going to look forward to your help of helping us because we can do great improvements to our city if we can improve Seacrest. It's not a great road. It's not designed real well. It's a fairly dangerous road at times and at places, and we know we can do much better. But it's a county road, and we need the county to come in and help us and fund that and do that. So we're going to help you help us get that done. So we are really glad you're here. Oh, there we go.
Mike Fitzpatrick. First of all, the Saffir-Simpson hurricane wind scale, Category 4, is 130 to 156 miles per hour. So.
Thank you for that correction.
There you go. Google comes through again. The only reason we can do such a comprehensive and integrated design right now with the 16.5 acres, contiguous acres, is because about 90 years ago, the city forefathers set it aside. And if it goes through as planned, approximately looks like half or maybe even a little more than half will go into private hands. So this is a one-time shot unless you do like a 99-year lease. So maybe nobody can predict what citizens will want 100 years from now, but I believe they should, for future quality of life, that they should have the same opportunity we do. So I would like to see this become a 99-year lease. So there was some, you pointed out, it hasn't been decided yet if it's sale or lease. Where do we stand on that?
Yeah, I don't think that's not been decided yet. We went into the project saying we would sell land. That's what we offered to developer. We would sell land. And the reason is that's the only thing the city has to leverage this project, to fund this project, is land. It's absolutely true. In 99 years, we don't know what's going to happen. The way land, in my experience looking at redevelopment is redevelopment happens somewhere between every 30 years and every 100 years. There's some redevelopment happens. When a space is no longer useful in the way that it's built, it gets torn down and it gets rebuilt to something that is useful. So if it no longer becomes useful for a residential unit, somebody will come along, or the city will come along, because it becomes non-valuable then. Once it's not being used, it only has the land value. And somebody will come along and say, there's a better use for that, and we're going to buy it, and whether it's whoever's buying it will buy it and use it for that use. So when you sell a land, it doesn't mean you're never going to redevelop it. The lease, the problem with the lease is leases work for many commercial projects, but with a lease, you can't have any for sale products because most people, it's very, very difficult. It's almost impossible to get a loan on something that you don't own the land underneath it. Now, if you own the land underneath it as an association, that's fine because you still own a piece of the land as the owner of the unit. So it becomes very difficult to do any kind of for sale units with leased property. So the answer to your question is we haven't decided yet. We don't know what the offer is. We're still working on all those facts. But we've asked that question of our commission. We've had the direction right now is to sell in or lease. We have to bring back the package. If it's better to lease in the package, it'll be a lease, right? If it's better to sell, we're going to recommend a sale. We don't know what the best option is right now because we haven't gotten to that point yet. But I think either works because my personal opinion is I'm an engineer. I do know in 100 years from now, if it's not being used and it's dead zone, and I won't be here. I can promise you I won't be here in 100 years, okay? And I don't know if I want to be here in 100 years. So, somebody will come along, and if it's better used for city use, then the city at that time will be able to afford to buy it back because it won't have a use for what it's doing for. So I think either way, you still have that opportunity. We have to let the market drive what's going to work for the project. And again, it's a question. It's a policy question. Do we want to sell or lease? And you're absolutely right about that. It's a policy question.
I have a couple other
questions. Go ahead, and then I'm going to let.
Shared parking at the marina hasn't worked out well. What are you doing differently here to make sure that we don't have those kind of problems?
Yeah, that's a great question. You want to try to answer that?
Well, I don't know the problems there, but
yeah, the problem there is they. The problem with the marina, as I understand it, I'm not the expert on it, but they reserved a bunch of parking, and there was public parking, and then the private owners were parking in the public parking, and the public were parking, and it was just a mess. What we're doing is that's why we're bringing in professional garage managers that know how to manage the garages so that doesn't happen. That happened to the marina. It doesn't happen at Renaissance. It doesn't happen at other places, and I've been to many, many places where garages work perfectly fine with the mixed use. The way you handle that is with technology, where you control the parking. So if you own the space, you park in that space, and nobody else will. If you don't own it, it's open parking, and you park where you can. That's a great question because that's something we really have to get into, and we have to design correctly. We're not to that point yet. We know what it costs to build a garage. We don't have all the details yet on how we're going to run that garage. That comes later in the project of how we run it. But we do have to address that issue when we design the garage. All right. How many more you have?
I said I had two.
Okay.
More. The ceiling in the first floor ceiling of the old high school has poured beams, and I would like to see them still stay exposed because my understanding they're kind of historic. They may be the oldest hurricane-hardened structure in the county now, and they were built after see all those poured tie beams. I guess they're staying, but that may be the oldest example of that in the county, and there was 12 high schools that were retrofitted after the 1926 hurricane, which tore things up, to be so all the citizens of the town could come here. And so this may be the oldest hurricane-hardened structure left in Palm Beach County. I'm not really sure.
Yeah, I don't know.
I would
that
like to comment on that. I mean, we have REG, the designer, working on this, and I know he's been emphatic about keeping that history alive, Mike. And so we will certainly take that back, because to cover all this up, knowing the activities that are going in there, if we can put lights and whatever acoustical treatments are necessary in there and leave that as a visible part that the city says, yeah, that works well for us, we are going to have to sprinkle it. And so, you know, there's some things that have to happen that weren't in there before. But I love the idea, and I think it's something that we definitely have to take a look at.
Okay. Got a question from up here.
My name is Walter, and I have a short question. I was just wondering about the library. If people are going to come to the library, will we have to pay for parking at the library?
That's a good question. Right now, no. Don't have to pay. Again, it goes back to we don't know exactly the parking model. Right now, we're not charging for parking. If that happens in the future, we'll definitely have the ability to be able to come to the library and use the library. If there's a parking fee, it may be for after the first hour or after the second hour. So if you're going to stay for 2 or 3 hours, it might cost you $1, $1.50, $2. It might be $5 a day if you stay all day. We don't know what those numbers are. That's in the future. Again, parking is driven by use. So the higher the use and the more premium it becomes, that's when it starts maybe costing a little money. And the reason you do that is to control that parking, because people may come and just park their car and go someplace else, and you're trying to prevent that. So if you give away for free, they could park their car and then go and do something else outside of town square, and they're not using the business and all that. So that's generally why you try to control parking with some cost. It won't be astronomical. That's not what we're trying to do. We want people here.
Colin, I have a question back here. Joe, could you please explain to the audience why we're taking the police station out of the heart in our downtown area and putting it on the west side in an industrial area when we're ready to build thousands of new apartments, businesses, bringing thousands of people into our downtown and isolating our police station over on the west side over at High Ridge in an industrial area? Could you please explain how that process went?
Okay, I'm going to be the spokesman on this. This is not me personally, so don't shoot the spokesman. The city purchased the site at High Ridge in about 16 years ago, 17 years ago, for a public safety complex. About 10 years ago, we built Fire Station number 5, which is our EOC and our main fire station, fire department headquarters. The parcel just to the north was bought for a police station. Now, the question is why is it there and nowhere else? There's a couple of reasons. One is you have EOC there and you have fire, so you have a public safety complex. So most cities want a public safety complex in one place. The second question is why it's not hard. Our police, and I'm not going to speak for the chief, so I'm going to do this very generally, and I hope I do it right. The way we police in the community is we police by zones, and the police officers work from their cars and from their zones. They don't work from a headquarters building. That's not where they report from. That's not where they respond to calls from. Did I get that right? Okay, she's shaking his head yes. So they work in zones. So where the police station is, it can really be anywhere because that's not where they're reporting from. They're reporting from their cars. The third reason is we need about 5 acres for PD. The question is, where do you do a PD in a city where you need 5 acres? And we looked at several sites, and over the course of the last year and a half, we've taken these sites up. And again, this is not staff driving it. This is staff taking, here's your sites, here's your options, here's pluses and minuses on each one, and we continue moving down the site for the PD. Is it the very best site? I can't tell you that. I don't know if it's the very best site. It's the site that's available. It was bought for that. It was decided to be bought for that. The station fits really, really well on the site. It complements the fire station there, so there is some complementary uses there for having public safety complex. Could it go someplace else in the city? If there was a piece of land available that was not tied up by contract or by something else, you know, it's 5 acres. If somebody, you know, in a city that's 13 and a half square miles, there's not a lot of 5-acre and 6-acre parcels available when you have already 78,000 people living within that city limits. There's not a lot of parcels available. This one is. So that's why it was chosen to go there. We're not saying it's right or wrong. It was a decision made. Staff is following the decision that was made.
Colin, just a little follow-up question. Would you say that when that was purchased back in 2004, that things have changed since 2004? And there are other parcels, potential parcels here that could be looked at?
Yeah, I mean, I'm sure things changed since 2002. We did spend the money on the fire station there in 2009. Are there other parcels? We looked at 3 different parcels. This is the one that that we've brought forward and has consistently received the majority of the support to put the police station there. It is the site that the police department wants to put their building there. It's something that they like it there because they like the idea of being close to the Fire Station 5, which is actually where police dispatch. Police and public safety dispatches in Fire Station 5. So you're putting those buildings. And there's also other advantages. They like the site because of safety reasons. They like the site because of the location. Is it a perfect site? There's no site that's a perfect site in a city that's 13 and a half square miles. I wish there was. There is no site that's a perfect site. Are there other sites we looked at? Yes, there is. There's other sites we looked at. We haven't been able to make any of those other sites work for us as of date. Now, this is a commission policy decision. It's not a staff decision. It's a commission policy decision of where we want to put it.
Colin, can you just give us some examples where other cities like Boynton have their police station isolated from their downtown areas?
Oh, yeah, there's many cities. Yeah, Orlando is not in their downtown area. Orlando actually just built out. That's one that we... Yeah, and I'm going to be honest with you, I'm not in the police department. I can't tell you exactly. That's something we can research, but I do know police stations go where land is available and when you have to build new. So I wish I could answer better than that. That's about the best answer I could give. Sorry.
Hi. The question, the slide is perfect there. I love the idea of the big display there because I think besides us helping each other after a hurricane, there is nothing that brings us back together, cross differences, as sports, right? So I could see us watching the game tonight at the field right there on that screen. My only concern is, as I see the plans, I see these 2 big trees right in front of where I think that is supposed to be. And could we fix that? Because I think it's a great opportunity to have the display.
Well,
I'm going to let Mark answer this.
We noticed that little obstruction that was in front of the theater. We currently have budgeted to pick these trees up because they're very healthy and very specimen privileged trees and bring them over into the park.
Fantastic.
So we want to keep those in the park and they're currently in our budget.
Fantastic. I mean, we don't want to tear them down. We're going to keep them. But we also want to see the game.
Perfect. All right, we got time for one more question, and then we're going to, the team will stay around, so afterwards, if you got individual questions, we'll hang out for a little bit. But we need to end the meeting because we said 7 o'clock. So
Thank you.
One more question.
Since approximately, I guess, 50% of this is going to be sold for private development, is it going to be sold to developers at fair market value, and are they going to get a tax break for 5 years, 10 years, 15 years, or whatever? Or are they going to be taxed as any normal business would be?
Yeah, that's a great question. This project works as a public-private partnership, and I'll end on that. We don't have all the numbers, so I can't tell you the numbers. The way this project works is we're not dipping into current revenue that the city has. So the way we're doing is we're leveraging this private development. So they will pay full taxes on their development, and then those taxes that are collected will go back into the project to pay for the public buildings. So the answer to your question is no, there's no tax breaks because that's what's paying for the project. Fair market value, I'm hoping to get better than fair market value. It's premium property. We want better than fair market value. We don't know what that number is going to be, but it's Ed. So hopefully that answers your questions. But I wanted to end by saying we want to really thank you. I'm going to let the mayor end the meeting real quick. He's coming up. If he gets, or he can stand back here. But I just wanted to thank you, and then Mayor, go ahead and close the meeting.
Absolutely. I just wanted to thank you. This is not over yet. We still have a special meeting on November 7th, starting at 4 o'clock, ahead of our regular City Commissioners meeting at 6:30. Plus, we have some great baked goods from Del Sol Bakery. So I noticed that a lot of people haven't had food for the past hour and a half. So if you want to grab something on your way out, they have their business cards there. And thank you again for all coming. If you have any more comments, please let your city commissioners or myself know, and we appreciate it. Thank you.
And the presentation will be on the web, and follow us on Facebook and Twitter at
# Town Square Boynton Beach.
# Town Square Boynton Beach.